in a proper manner. So let me give you the introduction of this particular chapter that we were doing yesterday. All right. So in the last class, we have discussed, first of all, we have discussed the meaning of the market. Meaning of market. Wherein I have explained that market is what? Market refers to a system. Market is a system or an arrangement through which buyers and sellers can interact with each other. Buyers and sellers can connect with each other. Any medium through which buyer and seller can connect with each other, that medium is known as the market. So therefore we can say that for the existence of market, physical place is not compulsory. Physical existence or physical place of market is not the one of the condition. Now let's discuss the characteristic. After this, we have discussed the characteristics of the market. So in order to form a market, there are certain conditions. First of all, there should be at least one buyer and one seller. There should be buyer and seller of the commodity. Then there must be commodity, either good or service. Then there should be some area. Area basically means there should be a medium through which buyer and seller can connect with each other. And there must be a competition. However, competition is not the most important characteristic. There are certain situations wherein there is no competition, still it is known as market. Then after this, we have understood various classification of the market. See, market can be classified on the basis of area. Market can be classified on the basis of size. Market can be categorized on the basis of transaction, volume of transaction taking place in the market. Then it can also be categorized on the basis of competition, level of competition in the market. So as far as our syllabus is concerned, we are not required to go in detail about the various classification of market on the basis of area, nor we will discuss the classification on the basis of size, nor on the basis of transaction, but we will be concerned about the types of market on the basis of competition. So on the basis of competition, we can categorize the market. How many types of market on the basis of competition? There are two basic classification. One can be the perfect competition market, and then there is perfect competition. So perfect competition and imperfect competition. And imperfect competition can be further classified. Imperfect competition can be further classified as monopoly, right? As monopoly and monopolistic, and also oligopoly market. Oligopoly. So in the last class, we have started discussing about the perfect competition market, wherein I have told you that perfect competition is a form of market. It is a form of market where there are large number of sellers, and buyers in the market, right? Sellers and buyers in the market. And buyers and sellers are so large that you won't be able to count the exact number of buyers and sellers that exist in the market. And because the number of sellers are so large that you won't be able to count it, therefore an individual seller have only insignificant control in the market. He holds a very small proportion of the entire market share, because the shareholding of an individual seller is so small or insignificant that he won't be able to control shareholding, that he won't be able to control the price is prevailing in the market or the quantity being supplied in the market. an individual seller have no control over the price and quantity being sold, and at what price the goods will be sold in the market. He have no control over that. Now, one of the important features of the perfect competition market is that in this market, every seller sell the same kind of good, which is known as homogeneous product. Every seller sell homogeneous products. Every sellers have the same good, and because every seller have the same product, therefore price charged by seller in this market is also same. Price remains same. Two different seller cannot charge different prices for their product, because every seller have the same kind of product. Therefore, they will have to charge same price from their customers. So price remain same. And okay, and there is one more characteristic of this market is that the buyer and seller assume to have the perfect knowledge about the market. Buyer and seller is assumed to have complete knowledge about the market. Complete knowledge, 100% knowledge about the market. All right, so this is all about perfect competition. And one more thing about perfect competition is that perfect competition does not actually exist. It is just a hypothetical concept. It does not exist in reality. It is a hypothetical concept. Market like perfect competition does not exist in reality. Hypothetical, sorry, it is a hypothetical market. There is no reality of perfect competition. Okay, so I hope everything that we have discussed in the last class is clear to all of you. And now we will proceed further. We were discussing the features of market in the last class, perfect competition market. So let's just recall everything through the slide as well. Market refers to a mechanism or an arrangement which makes selling and buying of goods and services convenient, right? And in other words, market is a medium which creates close contact between the buyer and seller in order to facilitate buying and selling of goods and services. And we have discussed the characteristic of the market. So one of the characteristic is that there should be some area. Area basically means there should be some medium through which buyer and seller can connect with each other. And after this, there should be at least one buyer and one seller of the commodity so that they can transact with each other. Then there must be some commodity. Commodity can be good or it can be service. And after this, there should be competition. However, competition is not one of the most important characteristic of the market, but this is one of the characteristic. If two or more sellers are operating in the market, then in that case, this characteristic is applicable to the market. Now, we have also understood the classification of market. And after classification, we have understood the types of market on the basis of competition. On the basis of competition, there are four types of market: perfect competition, monopoly, monopolistic competition, and oligopoly competition market. So these are the four types of market as per our syllabus. First of all, we will have to discuss the perfect competition. So while discussing the perfect competition market, I have explained the meaning of perfect competition. That perfect competition is a form of market where there are large number of buyers and sellers selling homogeneous product. Price charged by every seller remains same, right? And under such market situation, an individual buyer and seller cannot influence the market price. And you obviously know the reason why an individual seller is not in a position to charge different prices, because why individual seller have no control over the price and supply in the market, because he only control only small proportion of the entire market share. He does not have large share of the market holding. Therefore, an individual seller is not in a position to influence the price and supply of the market. And again, it is a hypothetical market. After this, we have started discussing about the features of perfect competition. One of which is that there are a large number of buyers and sellers. Then there is homogeneous product. Every product that firms are selling in this market is homogeneous, that is exactly similar, exactly identical with the other product sold by the other firms. Then an individual buyer or seller have no control over the price and supply of the commodity. After this, it is also assumed that firm will not be incurring any advertisement cost, because if firms start incurring advertisement expenses, it will increase overall price of the commodity. And if the price of the commodity increases, then this will discourage the consumers in the market. Eventually, consumer will stop buying the goods from the seller. They will move to some other seller. then it is also presumed that buyers and sellers have the perfect knowledge about the market. So we have completed all of these in the last session. So we will, in today's class, we will start from this characteristic, which is freedom of entry and exit. So this is one of the important feature of the perfect competition, that in this market, an individual firm has complete freedom to enter into the market, and he have the complete freedom to leave the market anytime. So let's discuss this in detail. Let me explain this. Okay. All right. So let's suppose this is a form, this is a market. Let's suppose this is a market. All right. So this is a market. All right. So let's say there are few sellers already operating in the market, and these sellers are incurring, these sellers are already generating, these sellers are generating huge amount of profits by operating in this market, right? So all those sellers who are not the part of this market, let's say these are the sellers who are currently not the part of this particular market. All right, let's say we are talking about the automobile industry. We are talking about automobile market. All right, let's assume actually automobile market is not the perfect competition. Let's for the time being just assume that we are talking about automobile industry, and automobile industry is a perfect competition market. Let's assume it is not. Actually, automobile industry is not perfect competition market. I will explain you later how which kind of market is automobile industry will be. So for the time being, just presume that we are talking about automobile industry and it is a perfect competition, and all of these sellers already operating in the market and generating huge amount of profit. But let's talk about these sellers who are currently not part of this market. As when they will see these sellers generating huge amount of profits, they will get attracted, to this market. Correct, they will get attracted to market, and they will try to enter this market. One of these seller will try to enter this market. Now the question is that in order to enter this market, whether these seller will require some kind of special permission from the government, whether they will be requiring any kind of special permission from the government. Answer is no. No permission is required from the government or any other authority. Neither they will be required to take any license. In order to enter this market, they are not required to take any approve basically take the license from any entity or any authority. They can directly enter the market without any regularity. There is no basically governing body through which they require permission. They can directly enter the market, looking at the huge amount of profit generated by the sellers that are already operating in the market. Similarly, let's say after some time in this market, sellers start incurring losses. Then or any seller who wishes to who is willing to come out of the market, he can come out of market without any restriction. Basically, this basically means that sellers have no restriction, neither at the time of entering into the market. They can take entry in the market without any permission, license or government approval. And similarly, at the time of exit also, they do not require any kind of special permission. They can just enter the market looking at the profit, and they can exit anytime from the market looking at the loss. All right, so there is no restriction. That is what we call, there is no restriction in the perfect competition upon a firm to enter and exit from the market. So this is the fourth characteristic of this type of market. Under this market, firm is free to enter and exit from the market on the basis of profit or losses. Whenever an industry is having abnormal profit that basically means huge amount of profit, it attract other firms to enter into the industry, and in case of abnormal losses, it induces the existing firms to leave the industry. This is it. Tell me, is this clear? Is this character of the perfect competition is clear, Junaid, Arisha, and Steve? That there is
Yes, sir.
an entry and exit of the firm.
Yes, sir.
All right, very good. Now, moving on to the next characteristic, that is absence of transportation cost. See, practically this is not possible that in any market, wherein a firm is operating or a seller is selling its commodity, he does not have to bear the expense of transportation. In every market there are some transportation costs, traveling costs or transportation cost. But when we talk about the perfect competition market, it is a presumption that in case of a perfect competition market, there is no transport cost. There is no transport cost basically means the seller can sell any number of quantity at the same place. He does not have to basically transport his goods from one place to other. He can sell any number of quantity by being at one place. He is not required to transport his commodity, his goods from one place to another, and he's not required to spend any amount on the transportation. So this is one of the assumption of the perfect competition, that in this case, in case of perfect competition, seller does not incur any transportation cost. Why it is presumed that transportation cost is zero in case of perfect competition? Because if we presume that there is transportation cost and sellers are incurring transportation cost, then in that case, transportation cost will make the goods more expensive. That means seller will be charging different price for their product, because every seller have to be a different amount of transportation cost, and because of the transportation cost, value of the goods will change. And when value of goods will change, the basic characteristic of the perfect competition will not comply, that all the firms selling in the all the firms operating in the market sells their product at the same price. So one of the basic condition of the perfect competition is that every firm, every seller should sell their product at the same price. Therefore, we have assumed that there is also no transportation cost. All right, there are no transportation cost in carrying a product from one place to another. And why it is presumed so? Because this condition is essential for the existence of perfect competition, which requires that a commodity must have the same price everywhere at any time. If transportation cost are added to the price of the product, even a homogeneous commodity will have different price depending upon transportation cost from the place of supply. Is it clear, everyone, why transportation cost is assumed to be zero in case of perfect competition?
Yes, sir.
Risha, is this clear? Steve, is this clear? Risha and Steve.
Yes, sir.
You want me to explain it again?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. So let's move to the next characteristic. And this is firms are price taker. This is very, very important. This is one of the most important feature of the perfect competition, that it is presumed, it is one of the characteristic of the perfect competition, that firms are considered as price taker. Now let's understand what is price taker. See, on the basis of price, firm can be categorized into two parts. Firm can be firm can be price taker firm, or price maker firm. Price maker firm. Now, what is the difference between the price taker and price maker firm? See, price maker firm have the authority or you can say have the power or control, have the power and control to decide the price of their commodity, to decide the price of their commodity, their commodity or goods on their own. They can decide the price of the goods by themselves. Getting my point? The price maker firm have this authority, have this power that they can decide the price of their goods. But if you talk about the price taker firm is someone who have no control, who have no control or authority over the price of the commodity, over the price of commodity. This means that price taker firm cannot decide its own price, can not decide the price of his good. Price cannot decide price of their good. All right, then who will decide the price of their good, sir? Price of their good. So in this case, a price taker firm have to accept the price prevailing in the market, have to accept the price that is prevailing in the market, that prevails in the market. So if in the market, let's say price of the commodity is rupees 50, then this firm will have to accept this price and sell their goods at rupees 50 only. This is the basic difference between the price maker and the price taker firm. Price maker firm have the full authority and control over the price of the commodity. That means price maker firm can decide the price of, can decide their price, can decide at what price they are willing to sell their commodity to the customers. But on the other hand, if you talk about the price taker firm have no authority over the price. They cannot decide the price of their commodity. Instead, they will have to rely upon, they will have to depend upon, they will have to accept the price that is determined in the market. Getting my point? This is the basic difference. So in case of perfect competition, firms operating in the perfect competition are assumed to be price taker firm, though these firms are not considered as the price maker. Firms operating in the perfect competition is assumed to be a price taker firm. Tell me, is this clear, everyone? Is this clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
So
Yes,
firms
sir.
operating in the perfect competition are price taker firm. Now the question arises, sir, if firm are operating in the perfect competition is not price maker, they are price taker, then who decide the price in the market? If firm is not deciding the price, who actually decide the price? So let me explain this concept. So just keep this in mind that we are considering the firms operating in the perfect competition are price taker firms. Now let's understand how prices are determined in the perfect competition. Let's understand this, how actually prices are determined in the perfect competition. For that, you will have to understand, you will have to have the knowledge of the demand and supply, basic concept of the demand and supply. So let me help you understand this. Let's presume these are the prices of the commodity, and let's say these are the various goods, various quantity of the commodity demanded by the customer. So these are the units of goods being demanded by the customer, and on in this column we will be writing various quantity of good that supplier is willing to sell in the market. Okay, now let's assume prices are 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 rupees. Now at rupees 1, consumers are willing to buy 100 units of the commodity. There is a product, let's assume there is some product X, and when the price of product X is rupees 100, customers are willing to buy how many units? Customers are willing to buy 100 units of this commodity. Now when price will increase, obviously what will be the reaction of the customers? Tell me. When price will increase, what will be the reaction of the customer? Whether he will be buying more units of the commodity or he will be demanding less. Tell me. When price will increase, customer will demand more units of the commodity, or they will buy less quantity of the commodity. Tell me. More or less?
Less.
Less. So let's say when price increases from 1 to 2, demand falls to 80 units, right? Price increases, demand fall. Similarly, price it goes up by 1 rupee, it goes to 3, then demand again fall to 60 units, and when it is 4 rupees, demand is actually 40 units, and finally when the price is 5 rupee, customer are willing to buy only 20 units of the commodity. So you can clearly see that there is negative relation between the price and demand of the commodity. Price and demand of the commodity are negatively related with each other. Negatively related basically means when price increases, demand of the commodity decreases. Both are inversely related with each other. Tell me, is this clear, Junaid, Arisha, and Steve?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now let's talk about the willingness of the seller at rupees. Because price is too low, supplier is of opinion that 1 rupee is too low. Therefore, at rupees 1 rupee, at 1 rupee, seller is willing to sell only 20 units of the commodity. Seller is willing to sell only 20 units of the commodity. So supply at rupees 20, supply at rupees 1 is only 20 units. Okay, and rupees 2, when price increases from 1 to 2, supplier is willing to sell more quantity. Obviously, as price will increase, supply will also increase 40 units. Price increases again to rupees 3. Supplier, on the other hand, willing to sell more quantity, 60 units. Then at rupees 4, they are willing to sell 80 unit. And when price is actually rupees 5, sellers are willing to sell 100 units of the commodity. Is this clear? Like there is negative relationship between the demand and supply. Similarly, there is a positive relationship between price. Sorry, like as I explained you, in case of demand, there is negative relationship with the price. On the other hand, if you talk about supply, there is positive relationship between the price and supply of the commodity. All right. So this basically you can understand on the table that when prices are increasing, supply is also increasing. But on the other hand, when price increasing, demand is declining. All right, everyone. Now see, now let's analyze this. Tell me, at 1 rupee, how many units customers are willing to buy? At 1 rupee, how many units customers are actually willing to buy? How many units customers are willing to purchase? Tell me. At rupee 1, how many units customers are willing to purchase? Tell me, Arisha.
100 units.
100 units. But on the other hand, suppliers are willing to sell how many units only?
20 units.
20 units. So tell me, until and unless both are willing to sell and buy same number of quantity at a particular price, market will not form. Interaction, there will be no interaction, there will be no exchange between the buyer and seller. See, in the market, exchange of goods and services, exchange of goods or services takes place at that price at which both buyer and sellers are agreeing, right? So at rupee 1, seller are willing to sell only 20 unit, but on the other hand, buyers are willing to buy 100 unit. This shows that there is a gap between the demand and supply, right? So at this point, there will be no interaction between the buyer and seller, as in there will be no exchange of goods and services between the buyer and seller at rupees 1. Getting my point? Now at rupees, when price increases to 2, demand will fall by some quantity, demand fall down to 80, but on the other hand, supply increases to 40. All right. Now when price increases again to 3, demand goes down to 60, and supply goes up by 20 unit, that is, it is also 60. Now tell me, at which price buyer and seller will be ready to interact with each other? Buyer and seller both will be ready to exchange goods and services with each other. Tell me, at which price both will be ready to buy goods and services with each other? 1 rupee, 2 rupee, 3 rupee, 4 rupee, or 5 rupee. At which
3
price?
rupees.
3 rupees. So this is called, this particular price is called the market price. This is what we call, this price has been determined through the interaction of the market demand and market supply. This price has been fixed. Just a minute. This situation in economics, this is called situation of equilibrium, at which market demand and market supply both are equal at a particular price. This situation is called situation of market equilibrium. We will be discussing more about market equilibrium in the next chapter, but for the time being, just keep this in mind. This situation at which demand and supply is equal at a particular price, this situation is called market equilibrium, and the price at which both demand and supply is equal, this is called market price. This price is called the market price, or it is also known as equilibrium price. Is it clear, everyone? So now see, this is the price that is determined in the market. Listen to me carefully. Try to pay attention on the screen. See, let's say this is the y-axis and this is the x-axis, and let's say this is the price of the commodity, and this is on this axis we will be showing the demand of the commodity as well as supply of the commodity. Demand and supply of the commodity. So as I told you that there is negative relationship between the demand and the price and demand of the commodity, right? So when you will draw the diagram for the demand, you will notice that demand curve will always be a downward sloping curve, right? Is this clear? Because there is negative relationship between the price and demand of the commodity. Therefore, demand curve is always which kind of curve? It is a downward sloping curve. But on the other hand, supply and price have positive relationship. Therefore, when you will draw the supply curve, it will also always make a upward sloping curve. This will be something, supply curve will be something like this. Tell me, is this clear? Demand curve will be downward sloping, supply curve will be upward sloping. Is this clear, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, see, this is the point of intersection where demand and supply are intersecting each other. This point is called the point of equilibrium. Let's, for the time being, let's call it point E. So the point E is the point of equilibrium. And now at the same point, price at this point is known as the equilibrium price. So this is the equilibrium price. All right. So let's say this is P, and the quantity at this point is known as the equilibrium quantity. So this is the quantity. So as according to our example, let's say P is 3 rupees. According to our example, P is how much? 3 rupees it is. 3 rupees, and quantity will be, okay, and quantity will be how much? Quantity will be so 60 units. All right. So this basically means that price in the market has been determined at rupees 3 rupees. This is the market determined price. This is not something that an individual buyer or seller have determined. This price is fixed by the market interaction. So many sellers are interacting with each other, and they made a conclusion that they will be buying goods at rupees 3, and sellers have decided to sell their goods at rupees 3. So this is the market price. Now let's say one individual seller is operating in the market. So let me make the diagram for the one individual seller as well. So let's say this is the diagrammatic representation of the individual firm. This is the market demand supply. This is market demand and supply. Now I'm talking about the one individual seller, let's say firm A only. So when firm A will be operating in the market, tell me at what price they will have to sell their product in the market? They will firm A will be in a position to charge different price for its commodity, or firm A will have to accept the whatever the price market have already determined? Tell me whether firm A will have to accept the price that market have determined, or firm A will be in a position will be in a position to charge some different price? Tell me. Firm A will have to charge same price as determined in the market for its product, or firm A will be in a position to charge different prices, assuming that firm A is operating in perfect competition. Arisha, Junaid, you able to understand the question? Sorry.
Same price.
Correct. Firm A will have to charge same price. As I told you, firm A will not be in a position to charge. Basically, firm A have no control over the price. As I told you, firm operating in the perfect competition completely depends upon the market. At what price they will be selling their product, they have no control over the decision regarding the price of the commodity. They will have to depend upon the market. So market have determined that every seller will be selling goods at rupees 3. Therefore, this firm will have to sell their product at 3 rupees. Now, see, this firm can sell any number of quantity at the same price. Therefore, the demand curve for this firm will be parallel to x-axis. Listen to me carefully. Market demand will be downward sloping curve, but individual demand curve in the perfect competition, it is a parallel to x-axis curve. Why it is parallel? Because it is assumed that whatever the price that has been determined by the market, this firm can sell any number of quantity at this price. This firm can sell any number of quantity at the price determined by the market. Let's say if it is 3 rupees, then it is presumed that this firm can sell any number of quantity at rupees 3. This firm will not, this firm is not required to reduce price of the commodity in order to sell more units of the commodity, because he is already operating in the perfect competition. So therefore, demand curve for an individual firm is always straight line parallel to x-axis in case of perfect competition. Junaid, Arisha, and Steve, tell me, is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. So let's get back to the PowerPoint. Let me show you. Okay. So firms are assumed to be price taker. As there are large number of buyers and sellers in the market, and no individual buyer or seller is in a position to influence the market price. I have already explained why an individual seller or buyer is not in a position to influence the market demand and market supply or influence the market prices, because an individual seller have no control, have no authority in the market to control the prices or influence the prices. Because see, authority or power comes with the holding in the market. If you have large amount of holding of the entire market share, then you will have the more authority or more power. But in case of perfect competition, there are large number of buyers and sellers already operating in market. So individual sellers share is so insignificant that he have no control or authority in the market. Therefore, he will not be in a position to influence the market price. Under such a situation, price is determined by the forces of market demand and supply. So whatever we have done on the note, that is basically the price that is known as price determination by the market forces. See, this is known as price determination of the market forces. Let me show you. So this particular diagram you are seeing here, this is the price determination we are doing here, and the entire process is called price determination by the market forces. So that is what is written in the slide as well, that under perfect competition, prices are determined by the market forces of demand and supply, and at that price, firm has to sell their product in the market at the same price which is determined by the market. Every individual firm will have to accept the same price and will have to sell their product at this price only. Therefore, we say that under perfect competition, a firm is always a price taker, not a price maker. Firm cannot decide the price of their goods by own. Rather, they will have to depends upon the market. So this kind of demand curve will be formed in the perfect competition. So diagram on the left side is the market demand and supply. This is basically price determination. Price is being determined through market forces. So market have determined P price. All right. And this is the same price is accepted by the individual firm, and individual firm is selling their product at the same price. Therefore, the demand curve of the market demand is downward sloping, but demand curve of an individual firm is always parallel to x-axis. This basically means that firm will have to accept the same price, and they can sell any number of quantity at the same price. They are not required to reduce the price of the commodity in order to sell more quantity of the commodity. Is this clear, everyone? So in perfect competition, let's recall what are the different characteristics we have covered. Tell me, Junaid, what are the various characteristics of the perfect competition? Tell me few features of perfect competition. Junaid, tell me one or two features of perfect competition. Junaid. Okay, Junaid is not here. Arisha, are you able to recall what are the various features we have covered? Arisha,
Yes, sir. Yes.
what are the various features we have covered? First feature was
There are many buyers and sellers in the market.
perfect. Next, large number of sellers and buyers. Large number of sellers and buyers. What is the impact of large being basically when there are large number of buyers and sellers? What is the impact of this characteristic on the market? The impact of this characteristic is that one seller or one buyer have not much control in the market. Every individual seller only hold very insignificant proportion of the entire market share. Okay. Next, what kind of product that sellers sells in the market? What kind of product sellers sell in this market in case of perfect competition? Tell me, Arisha.
Similar products.
Similar product. And what is the what do we call the similar product? What is the name given to the similar product? We call it homogeneous product, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you tell me about the process of entry and exit? There are restrictions. There is no restriction. Tell me, entry and exit. Whether there are restriction
No
on
restrictions.
no restrictions. Okay. So because there is no restriction, on what condition, on what basis firm tries to enter the market? Because there is no restriction, on what basis firm decides to enter into the market, and on what basis firm decides to leave this market? Tell me. It is very simple. On the basis of losses and profit. If firms are incurring losses, firm will decide to exit the market. And if firm is of opinion that in case of perfect competition, other firms are generating huge amount of profit, then they will try to enter the market. All right. Okay. Now tell me about the advertisement cost. Tell me whether firm will have to incur advertisement cost in case of perfect competition, yes or no?
No, sir.
No advertisement cost. And also tell me about the transportation cost. Transportation cost is there, yes or no?
No, sir.
No. Okay. Now tell me, in this market, firm is known as what? Firm is known as what? Firms are known as what? What do we call firms operating in this market? No idea? Firms are known as price. Come on, price. Tell me, Arisha. Firms are known as price taker, firms. Firms are known as price taker firms. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now tell me about the demand curve of the individual firm. Demand, what kind of demand curve is of the individual firm? Is it downward sloping, parallel to x-axis, parallel to y-axis, vertical, horizontal? Which kind of demand?
Horizontal line. Horizontal line.
Horizontal line to horizontal to x-axis, right? Horizontal to x-axis. Why it is horizontal to x-axis? Because it is presumed that seller can sell any number of quantity at the same price. All right. Can you also tell me the what kind of market demand curve is actually? Market demand curve is upward sloping, downward sloping. Market demand curve is, tell me.
Upward sloping.
Market demand curve is not upward sloping, Alisha. It is downward sloping.
Downward slope. Yes.
Downward sloping. And what about a market supply curve? Market supply
Upward sloping.
upward sloping. Okay, can you tell me the point at which market demand and supply intersect each other? What do we call that point? The point at which demand and supply, both curves are intersecting each other. What do we call this point? Tell me. Point of intersection is known as what? I've just explained this, no? Point of intersection is known as the point of equilibrium, right? The point at which demand and supply both are intersecting each other basically means the point at which both demand and supply are equal. So the point at which both demand and supply are equal is known as point of equilibrium. All right. And the price that is determined at the point of equilibrium is known as what? Which price? It is known as, tell me, which price it is? It is known as market price, or it is also known as Anisha, it is also known as equilibrium price. Is this clear? Do you have any doubt?
Yes, sir. No, sir.
These are the 7 characteristics or the features of the perfect competition. First is there are a large number of buyers and sellers. Product is homogeneous. There is no entry. There is no restriction on the entry and exit. There is no advertisement cost, no transportation cost. Firms are known as price taker. Demand curve are horizontal to x-axis. Market demand curve is downward sloping. Market supply curve is upward sloping. Point at which market demand and supply intersect each other is called the point of equilibrium. All right. And sometimes it is also asked that how prices are determined in the perfect competition. So how prices are determined in the perfect competition? Any idea? Prices are determined in the perfect competition on the basis of what? Prices are determined in market in perfect competition on the basis of, Alisha, you are going to tell me. Any idea? Prices are determined in perfect competition on what basis? On the basis of, tell me. On the basis of sorry?
I don't know.
Okay. On the basis of market forces, right? What is market forces? Market forces basically the interaction between the market demand and market supply. Market demand and market supply. Is this clear now, Arisha? Steve?
Yeah.
Anything you want to ask? Okay, so I presume everything that we have discussed in today's session is clear to you. And in the next class, we will discuss about the different type, the second type of market, which is called monopoly, market. Monopoly competition or monopoly market. So this is a very unique kind of market and it is very interesting. So we will be discussing about monopoly market in the next session. So I hope everything that we have discussed in today's class is clear to you. I request Arisha and Steve, both of you, to make sure you revise everything before you attend next session. Is this clear, Arisha?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you so much. So we will be taking a break of 5 minutes, then we will continue with our account session.